Hi lovelies, and welcome to the Witch's Cookery and a happy Litha to you. Today I have something super fun planned because my best high school friend Christina will be here. Hello! And she wants to learn everything there is to know about midsummer traditions, magical summer solstice rituals, spellwork, kitchen witchery. So we thought this might be a wonderful opportunity to also take you along. Doesn't matter if you're a beginner in your witchcraft practice, a seasoned pagan, or if you're just interested in enriching your life with a bit more mindfulness and connection to the season and the natural world.
Come along and give me all the information there is.
The name Litha comes from the names that the Anglo-Saxon monk Beda described for the months of June and July. June was Seaera Litha, the time before Litha, and July was Seaftera Litha, the time after Litha. Many pagans and witchcraft practitioners use this term to describe midsummer. The summer solstice is celebrated on the longest day of the year. While during the past half year the sun hours have slowly grown, they now start to shrink again. So one way to celebrate midsummer is of course to spend as much time outside as possible to soak in all that solar energy and make the most out of this day. If that is now by hiking, camping, packing a gorgeous picnic to take on an extra long walk, laying in your hammock, pottering around in the garden, spending a day at the beach, or like in our case, stocking up the herb apothecary. At home I do keep a small stock of foraged dry herbs for mundane as well as magical purposes that I use in spellwork, kitchen witchery, or as teas and tinctures. It is always tempting to harvest too much when you're greeted with such an abundance this time of year, but I would hate things to go to waste, and in the end I really don't need big quantities at all. I harvest about a handful of plants that I solely use for magical craft spell jars or to burn. Herbs that I use for cooking or baking last me for a year if I can fill about a 100 milliliter glass, and I harvest enough to fill a 250 milliliter jar of the plants that I will dry to make medicinal teas or tinctures. Midsummer is a traditional time to gather herbs, and of course there are some plants that have special significance for the day when it comes to their magical purpose and powers. Belts and crowns of mugwort were made and worn to the celebration to protect from evil influences and exhaustion. Yarrow is another herb that was burned in a hearth fire to cleanse the house from sickness or bad spirits. And the probably most well-known herb for the summer solstice is of course St. John's wort, with its bright yellow flowers that release a blood red color when put in oil. This red oil is an excellent home remedy for muscular issues, sunburns, and a number of skin issues. Bundles of St. John's wort were blessed in the smoke of the midsummer bonfires and then hung over doorways or in the center of your home to use throughout the year for protective or healing folk magic. It is said that St. John's wort is to be harvested on noon during the summer solstice, as it will then have the most potent magical and medicinal powers and is charged up with all that solar energy. With the Christianization of Europe, St. John's Day replaced the pagan midsummer celebrations, but kept a lot of the traditions and customs. That is why often the solstice celebrations here are held on the 24th of June, his saint day. When we look at the Christian symbolism behind this, we find a lot of symbolism we also find in pre-Christian Europe, so it is very well possible that this dates from a time before Christianity. The most important person in the New Testament is Jesus, and Jesus symbolizes the light returning to earth and a people. According to the Bible, Jesus was born on December 25th, close to the festival that pagans call Yule or Midwinter, the return of the light. But in order for light to return, it must turn dark first. John the Baptist was born half a year before Jesus on June 24th. It is written in the Bible that he said that he, John, was not the Messiah and that he had to decrease so that Jesus could increase. This way, John the Baptist became the counterpart of Jesus in a liturgical year. So, Jesus and John are perfect counterparts in the solar year and both symbolize the coming and going of light and dark. In this we find of course the same symbolism as in many pagan mythologies, with others taking the place of these two men, representing light and darkness, summer and winter, O King and Holly King, the underworld and the world of the living, dark and light, cold and warm, death and light, and so on. Of course, a holiday wouldn't be a holiday if we wouldn't also celebrate it with some seasonal goodies, and a summer solstice is no exception to that either. As a kitchen witch, this is probably always my favorite part of any festivity. Personally, I love to cook with ingredients that are in season and can be harvested already, or with symbolism that corresponds to the holiday. Naturally, since we gathered so many fresh herbs, I had to make a quick lemonade. You just need water, a sweetener like sugar or honey, and fragrant blossoms such as elderflower, meadowsweet, clover, or lady's bedstraw. You could also add goutweed and watermint for a kick of freshness and mallow for a pop of color. Where I live, it's now strawberry season, which of course makes a wonderful addition to every menu. If you now work them into spinach and feta salads, blend them with ice and vodka into a delicious solstice daiquiri, bake them into creamy strawberry summer tartlets, make them into a fresh berry jam, or simply eat them with sweet whipped cream. And it makes a super fun Litha activity to visit a strawberry field or wander through the forest in search of some wild forest strawberries. Especially if you have kids, this might be a highlight. I also harvested the first honey of the year the other day, and it gives you a wonderful ingredient for a Litha luncheon too. Spiced meat, honey and rosemary glazed roast, baklava, or a freshly baked bread with butter and meadowflower honey. We made bread too and went for the symbolism of the Midsummer. Mainly in Scandinavia and the Baltics on Midsummer Eve, big sunwheels are made out of wood or straw, and depending on region they are lit on fire, carried through streets, thrown into huge bonfires, set up at the beach, or rolled into the sea. Sun worship is a really important part of a midsummer celebration, as the solstice marked the decline of sunlight hours again. People were very preoccupied with the prospect of the darkness and winter coming closer again. The sun for them meant growth, life, health and survival. Winters were harsh, food was sparse, and deaths from hunger, sickness or wild animals were plenty. Not to forget that there was no artificial light, and for a huge part of the year they lived mainly in darkness. And way back when, they did not necessarily understand why season happened, so a number of rituals were performed to help strengthen the sun or praising various deities associated with it. By lighting those big bonfires, building replicas of the sun and holding their celebrations, they probably believed to give the wheel of the year a little push so it would keep on spinning. You can find the recipe for this simple bread in the description box underneath the video. It is the ideal Litha snack for a lovely picnic if you prepare it with veggie spreads, or can also be eaten for a solstice barbecue. As we spent our day outside, we cooked a vegan coconut red lentil stew over the fire and enjoyed our Sunwheel bread with it. And of course, you can also make eating into a great summer solstice ritual, should you be celebrating with other people. You could serve everyone a piece of the Sunwheel, and while you do so, you thank them for how they bring abundance, growth, life, sunshine or strength into your day-to-day. This is a lovely gratitude and bonding experience and really honors the spirit of the day. If you don't have people to celebrate with but would love to experience a magical time with others, I want to invite you to one of my retreats. Next year I'm hosting one for the summer solstice too, and places are already available on my website. And as fire is such an important aspect of this holiday, we also have an abundance of activities around it available for the day. If you have the option to visit a big midsummer bonfire or build one in your garden, that's awesome. You can bless or charge your magical items or herbs next to it or in its smoke. If you are daring enough, you can jump over it with a wish for abundance or fertility, and once it is burned down, you can gather the ashes, as those too were used in folk magic to bring fertility to the fields. But don't worry if you live without a garden or in an area where the summer solstice isn't celebrated publicly. I have a little magical DIY idea for you that is completely flameless but makes for a rather lovely Litha activity and a cute altar decor. All you need is some stones and sticks that you probably can easily gather on a street or in a park, and some fairy lights. And with this you can build your own portable bonfire, ready to be used in any type of solstice spellwork or ritual. Personally, I thought about the things in my life that give me that abundance, joy, health and so forth. Then I created a little symbol for all of them and painted them on the rocks to lend a bit of fairy dust and spell power to this craft. Sticks I secured with a bit of hot glue, and last but not least the fairy lights, which will lend a lovely sparkle to this fire when it's dark. You can also decorate your mini bonfire with fresh flowers and blossoms and use it in your personal Litha ritual, how you see fit. I hope you enjoyed these ideas, and now I wish you a most magical solstice.